Hello and welcome. My name is Fayon Dixon, general busybody, motivational speaker and broadcaster. Welcome to CMC's Friday webinar, Get In and Get On. We're planning to do exactly as it says on the tin, in fact, and that is help everyone find their way into the children's media industry. And for those of you who are just starting out, much of today's information will be useful and help you make exactly the right moves. So let's start with a big thank you to all our patron sponsors who are backing these CMC webinars. They're all on the screen now, and they are also the sponsors of the Children's Media Conference, which will be virtual again from this time in the 5th to the 9th of July. And they are Hecamar Films, Cartoon Network, CBBC, CBeebies, CITV, Macadamia, Milkshake on Channel 5, NBC Universal, Nickelodeon, Omen Studios, Pop, Sky Kids, Strawberry Blonde TV, The Elf Factory, Tiny Pop, and YouTube Kids. Plus, we also have the Department for International Trade and Zodiac Kids, who are sponsoring the International Exchange at CMC this year on the 1st of July. And we recommend that everyone who's taking part today to register for CMC. And some of you have already done so, and you will have your access codes. So please use them. Lauren is posting in the chat right now, so you can get all the details that you need right there. So the first part of today's event will be tips on navigating CMC for those of you who have not been before. Now, to get the best out of our conference sessions, networking, speed networkings, meetings, and so on, it's all there for you. And I must say that today's event is specifically sponsored by Gutsy Animations. So a great big thank you to them. Gutsy is actually the producer of the multi-award winning Moon in Valley animated series that was featured in a creative masterclass in last year's CMC. Now, over the next 90 minutes, we are going to take you on a rapid introduction to various parts of children's media industry and how it works. We're going to look at some of the jobs in the industry, what the various roles are, with particular emphasis on jobs for people starting out. Then we'll look at how to get into those jobs, what sort of schemes there are, and what there are in the way of helping you in various parts of the industry so you can get on. Then, as I said earlier, we'll also take a look at the Children's Media Conference and maybe use that as a bit of a template for various conferences, markets, exhibitions, and so on that are out there and relate to animation or book publishing or other parts of the media business. We'll help you navigate the professional conference and get some use out of your time out there. Now, if you have any questions at all, please post them in the Q&A button. Don't go to the chat though, because that doesn't work. If something occurs to you, send it and we'll try to deal with it as we go. Or you'll get a private response. Now, there's also going to be a chance, ooh, I love this, to meet, some of our speakers at the end of this webinar. So if you can hang around, all you have to do is get onto Chrome browser and enable your webcam as well. Lauren is posting the link right now into the chat so you can have a look and log in. And, if you want to come along and do some networking, then you are very welcome. Okay, that's the wonder of it all. So let's start the kids media. What is that? I mean, what is it exactly? And how does the big international machine actually work? So we are going to start off this wonderful get in and get on with Gary Pope. How you doing, Gary?
I'm very well, thank you, Phil. And how are you? You look very happy.
I am very happy. I got that Friday feeling, my friend. Over to you.
Thank you very much. As Phil said, my name is Gary Pope. I'm one of the co-founders of Kids Industries, and we play a very small part in this wonderful children's media world through strategy and creative execution. But more importantly, I'm a member of the advisory committee for CMC. So please, please, please do sign up and do go. Now, Lindsay asked me if I would share with you a kind of panacea of how this world works. And I thought rather than hear me rabbling on, I made a little video for you. It's one I made earlier. I've always wanted to say that. So Darren, if you could roll the VT, please. Hello. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to take you on a whistle-stop tour of the ways that the children's media world works. Now, I'm going to hazard a guess that as people that want to work in kids media, you love creating stuff. And so I'm going to start this little tour right there with creators. Now, content doesn't just get made by CBBC or Disney. It comes from any number of different places. And here are 9 key areas you need to be aware of, because any one of these may be a place where you can get a cracking job. Just to be difficult, I'm going to start with toy companies, mainly a game for our cousins in North America. Each of the toy cos has recently got behind content creation. And if I'm honest, they think of it a lot like advertising. Mattel acquired Hit Entertainment, and with it, Bob the Builder, Fireman Sam, and Thomas the Tank Engine. Hasbro bought E1 for more money than I can fathom, and now the proud owners of Peppa Pig. Watch this space for the Peppa Pig Nerf blaster. And of course, Spin Master has created that Goliath of canine preschool Paw Patrol. Toy companies own some of the biggest shows in the world, and with it, a degree of sway over the content world. Moving swiftly along, kids' content can come from anywhere, and games have now really come of age. The anathema that is Roblox, is it a brand? Is it a platform? Is it the epitome of the metaverse? Even the experts don't know, but it is valued at $45 billion and is pushing out its own branded and UGC content. Xbox and PlayStation are also taking their franchises off console, cloud, and into the animation studio. Now we come to the big studios, the Universals, the Viacoms, the Disneys. Content creators, yes, but desperately also trying to gain some scale to play in that dominant role of the streaming wars. More of that later. Now, some of the very, very best content comes from what I call the smaller studios. Players in their own right, but not too big to be ugly. Aardman, that just make all that amazing stuff. Nirvana in Canada, owned by the larger Chorus Group. And then wonderful new players like Boat Rocker that make the quite gorgeous Dino Ranch and the beautiful Love Monster. Where else you get to say those two names in the same sentence but in kids TV? These guys conceive, produce and then distribute their own content. Now it's time for the old guard, the broadcasters, linear telly, Turner, that's Cartoon Network and Cartoonito to you and me, Channel 5 with their amazing Milkshake block, and of course our own BBC with the marvellous CBBC and CBeebies. Channels co-produce, acquire and sometimes make wholly owned content generated from inside their own creative teams, but they have been struggling a little of late. Now, of course, one of the reasons why linear channels have been struggling is that YouTube has really taken over our children's media. This is much reported. And as well as being YouTubers in their own right, stars like Ryan and Jojo Siwa have gone on to create their own very, very popular shows, both of these with Nickelodeon. And then we come to the indies, the independent production companies. These are usually creatively led firms with real breakthrough content. Daryl McQueen remade the Teletubbies, make the fantastic Waffle the Wonder Dog. 16 South, based in Ireland, and a great many studios are, make shows like Claude and Wildwoods. And then there's Cake, who are just great too, and they produce Bot and Beasties. So now we come to the titans of our world, the ones who are changing everything from how children watch to how they play. The SVODs, subscription video on demand. You're all familiar with these behemoths, I'm sure, but the thing to know is that they're each pursuing the family audience with such vigour because it has become very apparent that capturing households with children early and giving them what they want really slows that subscriber churn. And that's all important to keep their businesses. So to the very newest kids on the block, the multi-channel networks, the MCNs. These are content creators that set up a bunch of YouTube channels and then feed those beasts and twiddle the knobs of content optimization on a minute-by-minute basis to gain ever more subscribers. These are companies like the current darling of the industry, Moonbug, whom by acquisition have become the most powerful digitally led children's content creator probably in the world. Their successes include Blippi, Little Baby Bum, and of course, Coco Melon. Then there's the likes of WildBrain, who have a wide-ranging offering, including commercial advertising across their network, and the Russian company, Animacord, whose Masha and the Bear is the 5th most popular channel on YouTube. Now, I've made it sound a little like these companies are all very standalone and they do their thing on their own and that's it. Well, it's not quite like that. So let's dig a little deeper into one real-world example. So let's start with that place that is toughest, but the one where, if you get the show away, the rewards can be amazing, the independent production company. And let's focus on one IP, Coco Melon, and the independent production company that developed it, Treasure Studios. Now, as Coco Melon views reached 3.3 billion per month, an MCN came knocking, Moonbug, and acquired the brand for an undisclosed sum. Now, initially, an MCN puts efforts into exploiting across YouTube and really driving those views to run their ads and earn the cash directly from YouTube. But then they think, oh, hang on a minute, we can get more eyeballs and more cash if we sell to SVOD too. And oh, hang on a minute, if we sell to linear broadcasters, then we can get more cash and maybe just a few more eyeballs. And as we've got more eyeballs, we can sell products. And so they sell the rights to exploitation to a licensing company. Now, following the $125 million fine that was levied on YouTube for all sorts of naughtiness in the kids space, Alphabet, the parent company, has made much more of a focus on YouTube Kids. Hand-curated, a kid-centric UI, more stringent advertising rules, and only available as an app in 100 countries, mind you, but only as an app. Now, the SVOD chosen by Moonbug for Coco Melon was, of course, Netflix. Getting in there as early as possible and connecting toddlers to the intravenous Coco Melon cathode ray. And then in the UK, and this is happening everywhere, something really strange happened. They sold to both Cartoonito and CBeebies. What this says about the need for an audience is telling. Now, in the old world of, 18 months ago, this was literally unheard of, like it was sacrilege. Now, because audience and not content is king, the walls are coming down and deals are being done that reflect this new paradigm shift of audience actually really coming first. Because if you don't put audience first, you no longer have a business. So now there exists an uneasy alliance where every possible platform has Coco Melon, and Moonbug is making a killing on the unprecedented demand for product. And that's where the licensing comes in. And these are the five most important categories: publishing, apparel, FMCG, that's fast moving consumer goods, location-based entertainment, theme parks that is, and installations of course. And these are predicted to make a huge bounce back this year. And then of course at the top is toys. So we're right the way back to where we started a few minutes ago. So that's how the game works. Coco Melon on the 1st of May was valued at $514 million, and they're only just getting started. That's it from me. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Absolutely brilliant, Gary. That was fantastic. I was hanging on you every word. All of you guys out there who are seeing this, you're new in the industry. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Gary.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon, everybody.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. So coming up for our next speaker now, I just want to welcome Navi. How are you doing, Navi?
Hi, Fayon. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. So very excited that you're here. Thank you for coming. Can you please just tell us a little bit about your role as a digital commissioner at E4?
Yeah, I feel like Gary really set the stage with that video. I work at the struggling broadcasters bit of the web. So I work at Channel 4. I work at E4 specifically, and my remit is E4 Entertainment and Teens. And so I've been working on a project recently where we've been commissioning content for 13 to 16-year-olds specifically, in a bid, as Channel 4 doesn't have like a devoted children's service. This is kind of like our way to do that. And so on a very basic level, a commissioning editor, commissioning exec are some of the roles that you can do at Channel 4 in the kind of creative space. And I guess on a very basic level, commissioning editor / exec will work really closely with an independent production company who will pitch us ideas. We will, as a commissioning editor, we will review ideas, and then depending on the briefs that we have out in our remit, we will sift through and then take our favorites and then pitch them to our bosses, who are often the head of genres. So we have many genres at Channel 4. At the BBC, it's often scripted. So you have comedy and drama. Then you've got unscripted departments like entertainment, features, fact and documentaries or factual. And so those are kind of like at the BBC and Channel 5, those are often like the main unscripted departments that you'll find. And yeah, so we'll sift through, find the best ideas, pitch them to our heads of department, who will then, it's kind of an interesting role where you're going to you often pitch to your head of department and then pitch to the head of channel or the controllers. So on top of the head of genres, you also have people who are controllers of the channels. So Channel 4 rather, Ian Katz, and then we have a controller for E4, Carl Warner. And different channels obviously will have different structures, but we're often kind of sit within a genre system and then pitch to the controllers. BBC actually changed things up recently, and they've got rid of controller roles, save for BBC 3, in order to empower genre heads more to commission within their genres. But yeah, so our role is really to sift through ideas, get the best ideas from independent production companies, work with them, develop up the best ideas depending on the briefs that we have out in our remit. And then once we get someone in the building to also love that idea that we love, then it gets greenlit. And we do the very fun project of working out budgets, doing all the admin, get into pre-production. And then our role really as commissioning editors is to be kind of the person on the channel side to exec that project alongside the production company. So our relationship with the production company becomes much more involved. We're across things like casting, we're across things like working out the format, how it works. We'll come to records, we'll come to production, like we'll come to shoots, and then we'll be across like the editorial, like the editing process as well. So kind of like from the point of development to delivery, as a commissioning editor, you are literally along for the entire ride, which is quite exciting. So you get quite involved. The other thing that you do as a commissioning editor is that there are aspects of, for instance, Channel 4, we have like pretty stringent like duty of care protocols, compliance protocols. So making sure things that like those things are checked and in check. So for instance, because we're obviously governed by Ofcom, we have to make sure that everything is like above board and done properly, and that we're looking after our contributors, we're looking after our talent. And so we work really closely with production companies to ensure that those things are done. I think a lot of people are always like, commissioning editors, it seems like quite like, it's like the job that you get after like a very like, illustrious, history of working in TV. So going from like a runner to production assistant, production manager, and working your like SP, working your way up. I actually had like a kind of interesting way into my role where, I started working in social really, and I worked at Vice Media as a social producer and really kind of cut my teeth there working on like mid-form content for like 16 to 24-year-olds in Canada, somehow moved to the UK, started working for BBC 3, which was interesting. And then and I loved it. I love BBC 3 as a social media manager. And then the best thing happened was that there was a scheme for an assistant commissioner, which I somehow got. And I did that, and that's really kind of where I learned. I had no real awareness of what it meant to be a commissioner, or like the, intricacies of commissioning, until I got on that scheme. And that's where I really got to cut my teeth and like learn the trade. And so in spite of like not coming back from a like traditional production background, I think there's like many different routes that you can take to get into a role like this. I would say if you're really interested, Channel 4 has like many avenues into getting into TV. We've got a great department called 4Skills who often do events. And they run like events with 4Studio. 4Studio is another amazing way to get into the channel. It is our new digital arm, and they're hiring producers, APs all the time. And then we've also got like a little development team that's working in there that makes and creates content specifically for social media platforms. So it's a really good way to get into TV if you're interested in more of the digital side of things. But yeah, rewinding a little bit on 4Skills. 4Skills is a great place. They've got production trainee schemes, apprenticeships. There are events regularly where you can, and webinars to learn different parts of the business, to see what you might be interested in. We've actually got 2 people who are commissioning editors at Channel 4 now, who started out on the Channel 4 production trainee scheme. So those are like really great avenues to get into television, and I would highly recommend them. So that is a very quick whistle stop tour to give you like a taste of what commissioning is like at Channel 4.
Oh my gosh, my head is whirring. Wow. Thank you so much for that. It's just spot on, just to give you a little taste, but thank you so much. Have a really fantastic rest of the day. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Okay, then now it's time for Steve to talk to us about live action sector. Steve, are you there?
I am here. This is exciting, isn't it? On a Friday afternoon in the rain.
Well, we're not outside, thank goodness. It's awful out there. Much better here.
Absolutely. I've been given 3 minutes, which is fun, isn't it? A whole 3 minutes. Obviously, I was sort of the last call. They're like, how many minutes you give Steve? 3 minutes. That's all he needs. So I've got 3 minutes to talk about the different opportunities and roles there are in TV. And Story Blonde, mainly our stuff is live action kids. We make the playlist for CBBC. We make lots of other shows as well, grown up and children's shows. And I came up through the ranks from a lowly runner once upon a time back in the 40s, just after the war. And now here we are a few years on, and somehow I'm running my own company. I don't know how that's happened. No one knows how that's happened, but here we are. So listen, you don't just have to be a presenter or an actor to get into TV. There's loads of different opportunities. And if you don't want to be in front of screen, of course, there's lots of stuff behind the screen, and you might enjoy finance. I don't know why you'd enjoy finance, but maybe you do enjoy finance. And there's lots of ways you can get into TV that way, in terms of starting off as a production secretary. And that's a lot of stuff where you're organizing people's cars and helping sort of run the production, issuing call sheets, and getting involved in all the organizational things. Then you go up through production coordinator and production manager, and you're looking after all the financial stuff in TV, if that's your bag, if it's not creative. But of course, if you are creative, you might start off as a runner, and then you become a researcher, and then an AP or associate producer or assistant producer, it's called as well, and then a producer, and then an SP, series producer, then an EP, executive producer, and then you basically become God. I mean, that's the progression there. You might want to be an edit. You might sort of do stuff already on YouTube. You might have your own channel, and you can already use Premiere. Maybe you've used Avid. They're both sort of systems we use in TV, and you can start off as an assistant editor and help what we call wrangle all the data. So you can start off as a DIT, which basically means you're sort of taking the stuff in the camera cards and making sure they're all backed up and you don't lose them, because you lose them will kill you. That's actually how it happens. So we lose the cards. We have to, unfortunately, we have to get rid of you. It's a horrible process.
It's a harsh world.
It's a harsh world. It's a harsh world. It's zeros and ones, kids. It's zeros and ones. It's a digital world. You're either a 0 or a 1. Get on board. So you can be a DIT and then progress up the ranks as assistant editor and editor. I mean, look at all those different things on there. There's things that I don't even understand. Gaffers and best boys. I don't know what they do. They sound good. I'd like to be. What about best girl? Is there a best girl?
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, so and here at Story Blonde, we don't really hire on experience. I'd rather, if I'm spending 12 hours a day in an edit with you or in the office, I'd like to sort of like your face. I'd like to know that I can get on with you. I'd like to know that you might go down a pub afterwards. I don't know, about now, actually, if anyone's up for a pint. So don't be nervous about if you haven't had experience, because a lot of people, you know, it's a chicken egg situation. How to get experience without having experience, how to get my foot in the door. It's not that difficult. You know, on the end credits of all the TV programs are people's names. You can go onto the websites of those TV production companies and find out what their email address is. It's really straightforward. Do not send out emails saying, "Dear Sir, Madam." Do not send out emails saying, "Dear Mr. Wynn." Only my bank manager. I haven't got a bank manager. Who calls me Mr. Wynn? No one. No one calls. "Dear Steve, make a connection. What have I done before?" Maybe you're from the same place I'm from. Maybe you've got ginger hair and glasses as well. Make a connection with that person. It's really straightforward. Look for jobs on Facebook. Don't think about it in terms of going the normal routes. There are lots of social media places out there. Follow those people from those production companies. That's where we post our jobs. Make that connection. It's a personable business. It's a creative industry. Don't be serious about it. It should be fun. And to make yourself noticed, just do a bit of your homework. I'm still constantly surprised how many people spell blonde, our company name, with an E on the end of it, or spell my name without an E on the end of it. It's really not difficult. So is that my 3 minutes? Faye, it must be, right? I'm going to stop talking.
The shepherd's crook is just coming into view. It's just nearly round your neck. There you go. Not a second longer. You were fantastic, Steve. I swear, if I'd have heard what you were telling everybody right now back in the day, who knows? Who knows where I could be? That was fantastic.
That's quite rude. Back in the day. Wow. Unbelievable.
You said you're from the 1940s. I didn't. All right, enjoy that pint. It was wonderful to hear from you.
Take care.
Cheers, Steve. Thank you. So coming up next, now it's time for Kez. Kez is going to tell us a little bit about their role down at the BBC. Kez, how are you doing?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good. Hi, everybody. Ironing board. Sorry, it wasn't put there specially. So it's great to follow on from Steve. I probably compete with you, Steve, in terms of back to the 1940s. And thanks to Navi as well for having explained what a commissioning editor does, because I'm a commissioning editor at BBC Children's, and I was going to go through that really complicated explanation of all the things we have to do when we get a show on board. And so thanks for having done that as well. And I think in children's, actually, if you are looking to start out in the profession, children's is a really brilliant place to start because it is a great place to work. And as Steve pointed out, that we look for potential as much as we look for experience, actually. And you can create a great career if you start in children's. But you know what? When I was young and I was thinking about what I wanted to do in my career, I had no idea that this role that I do now existed. I didn't really know about TV or anything. I just knew that I loved the magic of theatre and dance and stuff. And so I applied to do a course in drama, and I got to university to do drama, and I did my first play and realised I was really bad at acting, and that there were loads of people who were really good at acting, and that actually I really loved directing and I liked being in control. And so that sort of took me down a route, and I, with a few friends, set up some kids' Saturday morning drama classes. It was in Bristol, so we were working with kids who wouldn't then have had access to doing drama and stuff, and did some great projects. And I began to realise, oh, there's something in this. But I still didn't know anything about TV. And then a role got advertised in The Guardian, that the BBC were offering traineeships in a unit that doesn't exist anymore in the BBC, that was the Disability Programme Unit. And they were offering 2 traineeships a year with a 2-year paid traineeship. And I got one of those places. And even though the Disability Programme Unit doesn't exist now, we do have schemes and traineeships. And they're not always popular, but I would say I'm quite a fan of them. Partly I'm biased because I came through one, but I think we're getting better at making them really count. And so don't be shy. If you identify somebody as having a disability like I do, then really go for it, because there are opportunities there. So yeah, I came in through the disability program unit. I worked in Blue Peter for a very long time. And actually it was at the point of studio directing, and I'd got the Chinese state circus, and a kid came in with a big fossil that he'd found. And I'd spoken to him on the phone, and he'd been really, really dynamic and everything. And then he came into the studio and was completely monosyllabic because he was in an environment that he wasn't used to. He was with his heroes, the Blue Peter presenters. And it was at that point I really realized that actually what I was interested in is finding stories with people and kids in their own environments, and going there and going around the world and telling great stories with kids. So that's what started my documentary making career. And then I did some animation stuff, and then I series produced a big program for BBC One. And then I ended up in this job. So as you can see, it's very windy, no real connection between things particularly, except a real passion and curiosity for people's stories. And so I would say there isn't any one particular route, but hang on to what your values are, hang on to what you really believe in, and you will find a way through in order to be able to do that thing. So if I was to leave you with 3 bits of advice, I'd say be creative, find your creative soul, be curious, and be courageous. Really say yes more often than you say no. And I think you'll have a fantastic career in the media.
Absolute gold. Thank you so much, Kez. And
Thank
I
you.
love your ironing board. Your ironing board is gorgeous. So next up, talking about opportunities in animation, we have Lindsay Adams, the founder of Daily Madness Productions. Hey, Lindsay.
Hi there, how you doing?
Fantastic. Can't wait to hear what you're going to tell us.
I know. Well, it was so exciting to hear about live action because that world is a mystery to me, but I am delighted to be here and actually share with you the wonderful world of animation. So I am a producer. I've been working in this industry for well over 15 years now, and I have my own studio called Daily Madness, which is in Dublin, Ireland, and in Newcastle upon Tyne in the UK. So obviously animation production has been in the UK and Ireland for decades, but the industry as a whole has really exploded in the last few years. Across both territories, there are multiple TV shows and feature films that are going into production every year. And just like live action, there's a lot of people needed behind the scenes to make that work. As you can see here, you don't just have to be an animator to work in animation. There are a huge number of people who are involved from the early concept all the way through to the delivery of the final product, and it requires an awful lot of roles and requirements. In animation, there are a lot of entry points as well, just like in live action, because teams are so big in animation, most departments have an allowance for a junior or a trainee position anyway. So I won't go through the full pipeline, but just generally, if you're not aware of the terms, in animation, it tends to be 3 stages. We have the pre-production, which is script writing, design, storyboards, and animatics. We have production, which is the asset building and the animation itself. We have post-production, which is compositing, effects, audio design, and music. Now, you're going to get the slides after the session, so you can go through all of the different roles and do your own little research. But I just wanted to highlight one role in particular, which is called scene prep or scene planning. And for me, it's one of the roles that people don't know about, but it is such a useful entry point for almost anyone who's interested in animation. As you know, a lot of assets are going to be created in the lifetime of the production. And scene prep is the point where all of those elements come together. It's the job of the scene prep artist to get all the approved assets and put them into one file so the animator can get going with their animation itself, which is good because it's the point where you get to see the most of the assets that have been created. Because you're not physically making anything, recruiters are pretty happy to put newbies in that position. And I personally love it as a training point because it gives you access to artist materials. So if you want to be a background designer, for example, then you are going to see every single background on that production, the source files and how it's built. And that goes the same if you're a character designer, a prop designer, a rigger. It's just a really, really good point to learn. If you're an animatic editor, you get to see final animatics and you get to see how it's timed and how it's structured, and you learn that way. And the same thing for compositing, or for if you want to be a production or a coordinator or a PM, you'll never have more of a crash course in asset management and tracking than you will when you're doing a scene prep. So I wanted to throw that out there as my top tip in case the specific roles that you're looking for, like junior designer, junior animator, junior comp, aren't around. That is another one to consider. And if we can pop up the next slide. To be honest, in terms of advice, mine is pretty much the same as Kez, and as most people will say. Whenever you do manage to get into the kids media sector, you'll find that it's just filled with incredibly passionate people. And really, it is the nicest and the most friendly and most rewarding of industries, I think. Obviously, I'm biased. But it does take a little while to break into that. Just to let you know, it took me 3 years from graduating before I got my first paid gig. So it was a bit of a hustle. And I'm actually going to come back later in this talk and talk to you about the hustle and how you actually get through that, because it can be a little bit long. But as long as you're staying passionate and dedicated and you really know what it is that you want, I think that that's kind of the thing that really helps drive you through. So that was my very quick whistle-stop tour of animation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope you're all loving these insights that you're getting. Just absolutely brilliant. So now, oh goodness, here we go. It is time to let go of all you know about creative play. See what I did there? Mikkel, hello. He's going to be chatting about career at Lego.
Cool. So I work at Lego as what we call as the story lead. And I'm unfortunately the only one of my kind in this big company, but that's also pretty cool. So basically my job is making playable stories for kids. So, yeah, so that's me. And I have a background in animation. And from there, I went into a short stint in broadcast, then I went into animation finance, and then I ended up at Lego. And that means I sort of have a full circle almost experience within the kids entertainment. I did try a little bit of growing up television. I can't recommend that. Please stay in kids entertainment. We're much nicer people. And so yes, I work for Lego, and there's a lot of fun facts you can say about that, but I want you to zoom in on the bottom right one where it says more than 60% of this year's sales are novelties. So what do you need when you have 60% that are new? We need a creative play lab, and that's the department where I work as a story lead. And what we do at the Creative Play Lab is that we do all of the innovation stuff at Lego. So everything that's new most of it goes through our department. And by radically new, we mean big and fun Lego experiences that delight and inspire the builders of tomorrow. And that is the mission for Lego: create and inspire the builders of tomorrow. So the importance of play, just go to the next one. Obviously, play is hugely important. Play and story are uniquely tied together. If you can go back to the cave mom, 40, 50,000 years ago, back in the cave, she was pointing to the paintings that she had just painted in the cave, and and she would be telling the kids sitting in front of her about the horses, about hunting, and about gathering, and so on. And then the kids who had listened to that story would go out in front of the cave and act it out. They would play it. So story and play has been ingrained in our brain since almost the dawn of time. So that's why story plays a huge role in facilitating almost any information to kids. And play is the way that the kids get to act out, or we all do act out this information that we get. When we talk about story in Lego, we have story everywhere. 70% of our portfolio are role play. So story plays a huge part when you do role play. And obviously we have a lot of, we are in touch with a lot of platforms where we push stories. And so we do it in content like TV shows or movies, app games. We also have a good publishing division. We also tell stories in social media. We even have our own social media for children and so on. But how do we do it is quite interesting. We have something that we call the IP play puzzle. That's a horrible name, but it's a formula that I'm just going to unveil a little bit of so you can see how it's actually created if you go to the next. So in this formula, you'll see at the very center, when we create story concepts or playable concepts, we have something we call playable inner logic. And that is the core of the center of any concept that we make. So what's an inner logic? Well, you can imagine an imaginary world. A world of fiction. I'm not going to say any names, but you can just pick your own. As soon as you create such a world, you need to tell the audience how this world is different than the world that we know. And that means that you have to create an inner logic for this world. And if you inject this inner logic with play types, things that you played as kids, then you can start to make a play loop. And from that, you can say, okay, what kind of world would this play loop work well in? What kind of characters would be able to act out this play loop? What tools would they use? And then finally, what stories can we make when we have all these ingredients all together? Yes, so here's an example of a Lego concept that was released a couple of years ago called Lego Hidden Side, where the core of the logic was it was a ghost concept. So in the core of the inner logic was that ghosts exist and you can see them if you look through a special lens on your phone. Then you can actually see the ghosts that are in the real world. And you can explore the real world or the Lego set with your phone, and you can hunt for the ghosts, and then you can finally catch them. So what kind of world would be the best? So the world that we needed was the real world plus a paranormal world. The characters we needed were ghost hunters. In this case, there were also 2 YouTube kids. And then the tools that they would use in this case was an iPhone and other tools as well. And then we would create stories around that. We would create conflicts and we would create other characters, antagonists, and so on. So this is Friends. This is another Lego franchise where we have the player. It takes place in the real world. And here the inner logic usually in the real world concepts, the inner logic usually rests with the main characters. And here we have the 5 girls. And so each of their characteristics is basically the inner logic of this concept. So one is creative, one likes to perform, another one knows a lot about STEM, and so on. So each of those skills would sort of help us tell the stories. It takes place in Heart Lake City, which is a fictional real place. And they use a lot of different tools depending on what kind of skills they have. And it's quite easy to generate stories just based on that. Yeah, so lastly, we have Lego Ninjago. The playable inner logic is here that the power-up Spinjitzu makes you a better ninja. So obviously we need some ninjas. We need a world where Spinjitzu comes from and where ninjas can act out all their missions. And they had a lot of tools. Ninjas like to collect golden weapons. And we have generated, I think, around 11 seasons of TV shows based on that core inner logic alone. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you so much for sharing with us the wonder of Lego.
Thanks, Fayon. Thanks.
I have a question, actually. Somebody's come through with a question asking, it's Jen, and she's asking about how, or any advice on how to get a voice acting work in children's animation. Do you have any pointers?
We have an entertainment department that frequently hooks up with various voice talent. So that's how I would suggest getting in touch with Lego, at least. And so if there is an agency, that's also how we cast voices.
Right. And the $64,000 million question: how do you get a job at Lego?
Yeah, obviously you can be other things than a story lead. I forgot to mention we have all kinds of designers, and you don't need to be an engineer or architect or anything like that. Basically, you can be a great Lego builder and get a job at Lego. And unfortunately, I don't get to play with a lot of bricks because I work with the concepts before they become bricks. But but I work with all of these wonderful designers, and we also work with writers, we work with producers, we work with artists, even just simple sketch artists, nothing fancy, just really quick sketches. So there's a lot of opportunity in the toy industry as well, I would say, for kids entertainment.
Cool. And also, what are the basic entry points for a company like Lego?
I mean, we obviously have junior designers. I think that's, and we also have interns. Those are probably the main entry points. And I think we also have entry points in marketing, in project management, and junior writers and junior artists. So yeah, those are the entry points.
Wow, yeah, a lot of interest there. Thank you so much, Mikkel. Right then, coming on to the next part, we have Nigel. Nigel is going to be introducing some of the various roles provided in his sector of gaming, apps, and manga. Nigel, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. It's so good to see you here. Lots of people are sitting on the edge of their seats, just waiting for you to speak. So I won't take up any more of your time. Go.
Cool, no problem. All right, no, it's been good to hear people. I think one of the things that I've taken from the people that have spoken is that for a lot of people in the room, like there are companies that are looking for the talents and skills that you have. So what I figured I'd do, because I know we've only got a certain amount of time, I will merge how I've created my brand and the roles that might be available. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see that, see a picture of me holding some manga. This is some of my manga. So my name is Nigel Chmartsi. I'm the co-founder of the manga brand Mayamada. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see where we have created our own manga universe. And this is a collection of some of the stories that I've written and self-published. So I say the world's first manga network because within our universe, it's framed as a television network. So each of those stories that you see is a different show within the network. So it's very meta. There's a whole story of why that is. We definitely don't have time to cover that, but that's the framing that we've got for that. So if we go to the next slide, and what I'm here to talk to people about is the kind of roles that are available. So like I said, I think within this group that we have watching, you might hopefully find some things that you're interested in, some things that you're probably already doing. So we'll talk about the first one, which is something very relevant to me and what I do. If we go to the next slide. Writer. So I write the stories within the brand. And this kind of means bringing together stories, world building, developing characters, and bringing that together in a hopefully seamless way that represents our brand and our characters. So our brand is an all ages brand. So when you're writing your stories, and something that I've found is to be considerate of the audience you're writing for. So being all ages means like it has to be sort of safe, suitable for children, but also for readers of any age. So that's something to keep in mind as you develop your writing skills. So if we go to the next slide, this is one that I found the hard way, is that you can write stories, but you actually then need someone to look over those stories. And that is a story editor. So as I put together the world, like I mentioned, the characters, I'm essentially requiring someone to be outside of my brain as I put these stories together. Because when it comes out, it's perfect. It's the best story ever. What you quickly find is that not everyone thinks exactly the same way as you. So a story editor is someone who not necessarily is coming up with the ideas, but is helping develop those ideas from the very beginning all the way to production. In our case, that means developing the artwork. And then once the artwork is on paper, before we send it to the printer, and that crucial step when you commit to the story is making sure that everything hangs together, sort of visually, story-wise, and basic grammar and spelling. So if we go to the next slide, you will see the artwork. So I touched on the artwork. So we're a small team. So we have an artist. Drawing is the one thing I don't do within the brand, and for good reason, because no one will buy what I'm drawing. So we have an illustrator, and she can draw, as hopefully you can see through this image. And we're kind of fortunate in terms of the person that we have, in that I've listed a number of roles there, and many of them she covers. So just to quickly run through those, we have someone who sort of does the initial sketches. So that would be like a penciler. So if you're reading a comic, one of your favorite comics or manga titles, someone would have had to design and draw out the basic panels where everything goes. Then once, in our case, once we're happy with a page, happy with how it hangs together with the story, it's then inked. So that's going over those initial pencil sketches, and sort of committing them to a page, making sure all the lines are clear and well read. We work in black and white, but you might find in some cases you have a colorist, and that's someone who adds the color to that inked image. So these are all separate roles, or can be separate roles. We've managed to get someone who does that and the lettering, so dialogue and everything like that. One of the things that, so we've all managed to get someone in one person who does covers those roles. One thing that we've added recently is a concept artist, where at the beginning of the process, before we get to this point where you see things in draft, in sketch pages, and certainly before you get to the final kind of artwork, is exploring ideas. And I think this was covered or touched on in one of the earlier talks, where that's a key role in many fields across the media. So that's something, and this idea of transferable skills, I'll come back to in a moment. So if we go to the next. So what I wanted to get across with all that, before I talk about video games, is that it's a team effort. And I think for the people kind of watching this, is just to understand, like I said at the beginning, is that you might have a skill that is very valuable to a team. So I definitely can't do everything myself, and it requires multiple people. So I think just having that understanding that you'll be required to do everything yourself. It's about what can you contribute, what value can you add to a team effort to complete a project, in our case, comics or manga. Next slide, please. All right, let's talk video games. So as part of our brand, as well as developing this manga universe, we also have a video game event called Gamepad. And the idea for Gamepad is to develop and put out this event suitable for all ages that promotes inclusion and diversity. So we want to show, as you can see from the images, that different people play games. They look differently, they come from different places, they have different experiences, and we want to celebrate that, as well as provide a platform for young and aspiring games professionals to get a grounding and some experience in working related to games. So next slide, please. So what I'm going to just say up front is there's no way I'm going to cover all the events or even list them on a PowerPoint slide. So what I will recommend to people is to visit this website, intogames.org, if you don't already know about it. They've got a great search engine where you can search for different games, and it kind of lets you know the path towards those games roles. So I will leave that with you. That's very valuable, but I'll highlight some of the roles that I wanted to point out while I'm speaking here. So we can go to the next slide. And one of the obvious ones is the gameplay programmer. So hopefully there are a few people that play games within the audience, but you'll understand that as you play games, someone or a team of people most likely would have to program the game mechanics and logic that hang together within the context of the video game you're playing. So that's an important role, something I personally understand just because before making comics, I was a software engineer. So I wanted to start with that and represent that. But if we go to the next slide. And then this is something that is also very relevant to me now. So I talked about this idea of transferable skills, and I write comics, and what that does is get you a grounding in art, science, wizardry of writing, sort of narrative design. And that is transferable to video games. It's transferable to animation. So in video games, it's something that is becoming more and more prominent in the games we play. So we are talking about plot, environment, dialogue, all these elements that contribute to the story that is told when you're playing the game. So that's something to keep in mind in terms of a role. So if we go to the next slide. This is often, when I speak to people within games, it's often brought up as a good entry point into video games. Not the only entry point, but a good one, which is quality assurance tester, or it might be called different things depending on where you are. But the idea is that games is a very complex thing to make. And that means you're going to get some bugs, as anything software engineering, anything technology-wise, to be honest, you're going to get some bugs. So the idea is to have a bug-free launch, or as bug-free as you can get with video games. So this is a good grounding to get in and to get a good understanding of the game-making process. And like I say, contribute value in terms of ensuring that you can help spot and eliminate bugs before they go out to the wide world. So if we go to the next slide. And the next few are a couple like relatively newer things. I think if anyone's heard of Twitch. So just because of the world that was 2020, our Gamepad event was a physical event up until 2020. Like everything else, it has now become an online, or at least has an online component. So this is Tazzy, the host of our Gamepad online event. So she does a number of things that I am not necessarily good at, like hosting a gaming event. So what that means is being a sort of friendly, presentable person who is knowledgeable about the games that are being played, but also able to communicate with the community and the audience that we've got. So, and then either that can be a general thing in terms of hosting an event, or in terms of casting. So shoutcasting is like commentary over a particular game. So at our Gamepad online event, we have people playing different games. So it's someone who knows a bit about the game and can provide commentary so that people watching can kind of get that play-by-play as to what's happening. So if we go to the next slide. And yeah, Tazzy does many things. She's multi-talented. So also what she does outside of Mahmada is create her own content. So she's currently working for Game and as a content creator, and creates content across their platforms, across her platforms, and helps me do what we do through Gamepad. So this is a combination of being able to engage and community building. So it's about bringing people together who are passionate about this particular area, whether it's a specific game, specific platform, or specific event, or anything else. Being able to identify what the community needs, and then being able to build content that speaks to that. Yeah, and that is kind of like I think the key word of the day is like whistle stop. So that is a whistle stop tour through some of the things that kind of we do through Mahmada. Hopefully that's given you some kind of insight. What I will also say in terms of video games is that there's a company that some might have heard of, Splash Damage, who are actually now looking for people for new roles at their company. And they're specifically interested in people not necessarily who have done a degree or have a degree qualification, because they understand that there are many routes into video games. So I couldn't change the slides in time, but if anyone is interested in video games in particular, wants to look up Splash Damage, they're running an opportunity there for people.
That's a good shout. Thank you so, so much. It's just brilliant. I mean, whistle stop. What does a whistle stop even look like?
I don't know. I was going to Google it before, but I didn't want to mess up I'm going to do that after.
I think our speakers today are basically giving us that. So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, some real jewels there for our gamers to take away. So coming up next is actually a pre-recorded message that was prepared for us by Maxwell, and he is going to be talking about being in the creative industry on the animation side. Take a look.
Hi everyone, my name is Maxwell Afolabi Yogini, and I'm an animator, character design artist, and an illustrator. But currently, I'm a story artist for Warner Brothers Productions. I've been working in the animation industry for the last 15 years, but it was really around the age of 12 that I fell in love with the craft of animation. So like I basically just prided myself in recording as many cartoons as I could onto as many VHS tapes as I could, and, you know, drawing back the characters and things like that. So it was around this period that, you know, or that age that I knew that I wanted to pursue animation as a career path. At university, I studied a traditional 2D character animation course at the Glamorgan Center of Art and Design, which was a fantastic course. I graduated in 2006 and was fortunate enough to pretty much land a job straight away working on a series production. After my time there, I freelanced for various other studios, working on animating on TV commercials. A year or so after that, I partnered with a friend of mine to form an animation collective. We received representation from a well-known studio at that time, and basically began the first steps towards becoming animation directors for commercials and music videos as well. For the next, I spent the next 7 years co-directing various TV spots, and the odd music video, but I always took on a lot of freelance work on the side. So my network and contacts basically kind of just grew and grew from there. 2014 was a year that I transitioned from commercials to series animation. I'd always known that series productions was where I wanted to end up, but it was only until that year that the opportunity actually presented itself, which was a major deal for me because I knew that this was a step up towards fulfilling certain career goals that I had. So for the past 8 years, I've worked as a character animator on various productions such as Mr. Bean, Hey Duggee, School of Roars, Pinkalicious and Peterific, and various other titles. I've also been animation lead as well as a supervisor. I've always also had a pretty clear vision of where I want to be career-wise. But working in series animation these past few years has really provided a lot of insight into just how many different sort of areas there are to cross over into, whether that's storyboarding or rigging or visual development, animating or things like that. So there's a lot there to kind of consider. So as mentioned before, I'm currently working for Warner Brothers Productions as a story artist. Now, as a story artist, you have to wear several different caps. You have to have a good sense of direction. You have to have good compositional skills. You have to have an ability to convey humor and certain specific emotions using staging, and just generally be good at problem solving for when it comes to script adaptations. So this particular production that I'm working on is for a feature film. I can't say too much about what that is just yet, but the title is Wiley versus Acme. So for feature films, this is like a new territory for me that I'm just crossing into as far as career-wise and industry-wise. So again, this is another sector that you can branch into eventually. But it's a whole different ballgame to series productions as far as being a story artist. I'm used to providing storyboards. I've been providing that service for years, but feature films, there's just a lot more expected of you to deliver. It's just a lot more magnified and a lot more challenging. It definitely pushes you to your limits. So you're kind of forced to evolve and really sort of think outside the box. But it's a really rewarding experience, and you grow a lot in the process. Directing series animation and developing my own shows, my own content is definitely the next venture for me. This has been my core vision and destination since I was a child. So having now gained the experience that I've needed in the necessary areas, this is definitely where I've got my eyes set on next. There's already a few opportunities that are beginning to present themselves, but as with anything else, as long as you're, working hard and you're being proactive and you're working with a clear directive in mind as far as where you see yourself, where you want to be, things will happen at the right time. There's a lot of opportunities out there in the industry. You don't throughout your career, you don't have to just pigeonhole yourself into one specific area. You grow and you evolve and things like that. I would say maybe at the beginning, it's good to kind of know that one thing that you do well. And then as you kind of grow, you'll pick up new skills and you kind of learn and and you can kind of start to branch out from there once you gain a little bit more experience and insight into the industry. But I hope this was helpful for some of you guys, and I genuinely wish you guys all the best of luck in your journeys. So yeah, all the best, and take care.
Thank you so much, Maxwell. Brilliant to hear from you. So returning now, Lindsay is going to be coming back to us. Lindsay, are you there?
Hiya, I'm back.
Well, we've got loads of questions actually that have come through on the animation side. So I know that you would love to tell us about, where to look for jobs in the industry, but do you want to answer some of these animation questions first?
Sure, no problem. Is there any in particular you want me to start with?
Yeah. I've got a big up. So many people coming through. Thank you, Emlyn Davis, that is, from CG Production Studio. There is a question. So as owner of CG Production Studio, are there ways to find projects to work on, not necessarily bringing in your own IP?
So yes, absolutely. I think in terms of the animation industry, it always takes multiple, well, not always, but a lot of the time it takes multiple companies to make one idea. So quite often, if somebody comes up with an idea and they're getting some traction on their IP, they will look for partner studios to help them through. And if you're specifically for CG, then 100% you can start marketing yourself as a service studio. My studio, Daily Madness, we do service work as well. One of the big draws for us is that we are in Dublin, so we can provide 32% back on tax credits, which makes people come to us because they get their animation for cheaper. But you can kind of sell it in whichever way that you want to package it. I would look at events like this at the Children's Media. I would even consider going into things like international exchange and starting to meet people there and tell people about your services and make sure people are aware of that. Because if it's the right project and the right fit, then just like everything else in animation, if it's based on networking, then you more often than not will start to get those leads.
There are questions coming in as well from Kizzy, Mo, Joe. Thank you so much. We will get there. But I did want to ask a question from Helena Mitchell. She says, I've worked in the kids' entertainment theatre world for a while, but I'm wondering, how do I take my show that I've written and get it to the point it's being pitched and being commissioned onto a network such as Netflix or BBC? I'm creating a pilot episode, so it's a case of pitching the pilot episode to the commissioner. Is that what it is?
I would say you can absolutely talk to commissioners if you want to do directly, but what I would say it's probably easier if you go and find a production studio, an independent production studio that suits your show and your concept, and pitch it to the producer there. The producer knows how to work the entire network when it comes to animation and when it comes to TV, and it's their job is to create those links with the commissioning broadcaster. So I just think it's a little bit easier if you go through a producer. But obviously, you can always go directly to broadcasters if you want to. It's just, it is a bit of a minefield out there. So I would suggest going to a producer first.
And a question from Jane Finch. As an older person, not from the animation industry, with an idea for a cartoon series, where should we start? And who should be on the team initially, i.e. concept developer, character design, etc.?
Well, I mean, if you're looking to produce this entirely yourself, I would start looking for funding to do that. It's expensive to come up with concept art and stuff. So have a look at places like the BFI that have entry level and have little pockets of funding that's available for all of the different regions. Again, look at, I am going to come back and talk about studios and how to find them, but start researching studios and find studios that are really suitable for the type of thing that you're making, because it is hard to get your own thing up off the ground. There's a lot of people and a lot of ideas, but having the right team behind you is kind of 50% of getting to that point. So do your research, have a look for the right partnerships and the right people to reach out to. Again, it's all on relationships, so it'll be a slow burn. It takes a while, but there will be the right resources out there.
And just a quick question. Any advice, this is from Jen Hulse, any advice on how to get into voice acting for children's animation?
You know, I know that we've kind of said a little bit about going to the production houses and finding agents. I'd actually have a little look at the post-production houses. They're the places where we do the recording for the voices. And sometimes when I can't find somebody through a casting agent, or I can't find someone through websites, I'll just ask the technicians, hey, has somebody been in recently that you thought was really good and easy to work with? And they'll recommend actors that they know. So I actually think go to the post houses and let them know that you're around and send them your reel, and they might be able to help you out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for answering those speedy questions. Right then, now Paula is the next person up. Hello, how are you keeping?
I'm good, thank you. Just really enjoying what my peers are saying. It's really interesting.
It is absolutely amazing, isn't it? So you've got some insights for starting out in film festivals. We can't wait to get back to them. And events in the Children's Media Conference. So over to you.
Yeah, so I was talking to Lindsay, a while ago about how I started in my career. I'm a line producer in animation and by default work in children's media. And I started in film festivals, and I'm always very surprised about how little people know about, what a film festival really is and all the opportunities that they provide for knowledge of the industry in the UK, Ireland, or whatever it is that you are really. So I've done this very brief presentation to give some information about what a film festival is, and hopefully that will help, people. And yeah, like you'll get to enjoy them a little bit more whenever they are back to not being online. So what is a film festival? So a film festival is an annual event most of the time. Sometimes it's every 2 years or every 4, that specializes in bringing films to audiences. And they do have a different program every year. So every year they show different films from different filmmakers. Some big film festivals like Cannes, Tribeca, London, Edinburgh, they have a wide variety of genres that they will show. And some of them, they even have children's programs as well. And some of them, they just focus on a specific subject, like the African in Motion Film Festival in Edinburgh as well, the Sheffield Documentary Film Festival, the Annecy Film Festival back in France. So as you can see, it's just they cover every single aspect of genre of film. There's a film festival for absolutely everything in this world, and that is a good thing because it provides a platform for filmmakers that sometimes, because they are very niche, they don't get the distribution to show their films. And for me, I am just very passionate about this subject because I absolutely love the fact that they exist. So in the major festivals, there are 2 sides to the festivals. One is the audience side, which is the one that most people will feel comfortable about, which is like, oh, Cannes is showing this film. And then, you get the filmmakers presenting the film in their big fancy dresses in a red carpet. And if you're lucky, you get a ticket. And if you're even luckier, you get another ticket for the party afterwards. So that's kind of like the audience side that most people know about. But there's other side to film festivals, and that's the industry side. So all of those films that are being shown in the festival, most of them, the filmmakers that were involved in these films are coming, to meet other filmmakers and to get distribution, to do a little bit more of exposure, obviously to compete for awards. But the side that I'm very familiar with, and the side where I started at, was the industry side. I was a volunteer in the industry office of the Edinburgh Film Festival, and I was taking care of just very simple things like printing the passes for every single industry person that came to the festival. So why should I attend a film festival? So I always encourage people to attend film festivals if they want to work in film and TV. And why is that? Because like I said, sometimes you get to go to the screenings, and the big films that festivals bring, they probably come with distribution, and that's not a problem. But there's a lot of other films that are made in a more independent way, and it's very interesting to see them, because you have to see what your industry peers are making and how they are making. There's a lot of how they're making it. So there's a lot of people, there's a lot of questions about, I have an idea for a short film, I have an idea for a series, I have an idea for a film. Have a look around and see if your idea has already been made, or something similar has been made, but you have a different angle. Because that's part of your research. You cannot go to pitch anything in this world without knowing whether there's an audience for that and whether it has been made before. And if it's made before, how can you make it differently? What's the thing that's specific to you about that story that you're going to tell differently? So that's one thing. If you're also like serious about working in film, you have to understand the different roles and the different levels of how content is created. So it's when you attend a film festival, you probably understand who is who in your local industry. In this case, we're basically talking mainly about the UK, and how your industry is structured. So who are the commissioners? Who are the directors? Who are the distributors? Who are the sales agents? Who are the script writers? And so on. Who are the film funders? Those are the ones that we all want to be friends with. And which schemes do you have for different roles? When I was volunteering at the film festival in Edinburgh, years and years ago, when I was a student, just one season volunteering the film festival gave me a very clear overview of who provides extra funding for training, which were the national, film schools. Were there any short films, commissioned by Channel 4 at the time? I remember they have a beautiful short film scheme back then. I don't know if they still have it. So it was just really good to understand, who is the people working in my industry and what are they making and what kind of people are they looking for? And most importantly, how do I fit in this industry? Because I was very keen on fitting in and just making sure that I developed my career on it. And the last one is, I already mentioned the discovering films, and I will keep saying it because I think it's very important as a filmmaker, as a TV content producer, to always look at what other people are doing, what you like, what you don't like, because it's just, I think it makes you grow as a person and it makes you grow as a creative as well. And also you will meet people like you who are passionate about creating content and making films. So how do I attend the film festival? So this is a golden question, and there's one golden answer, but that's my golden answer. You get to decide if you like it or not later on. So one, simple thing is you buy tickets for screenings and go and watch films, eat your popcorn. Hopefully you won't eat anything that makes a lot of noise because that's very annoying, and just be with your friends and have lots of fun. The other thing that you can do when this film festival has an industry side, you can buy a delegate pass. And that delegate pass is kind of like a conference pass that I would assume in this children media conference, you'll have something similar. And there's different levels with different prices. Some festivals, they have networking passes, which are usually very cheap, and it's just for you to be able to enter the delegate center and make meetings with people. Then the other ones are basically the more expensive they are, the more access they give you to different areas. But I think it's always worth going into their websites. Always, if you have questions, you can contact them directly and say, I'm a first-time screenwriter. I want to come to your festival to meet, other screenwriters or somebody who needs a screenwriter. And, what kind of pass would you recommend me? And they will just give you all the information. They're usually very helpful. And then the golden answer, which is my answer, is you can volunteer for the festival. And this is, because it's a golden answer, I said in there, we can go into the next slide and I'll explain you why. Not everybody has a lot of money. Not everybody has £300, to spend on a pass to go to a festival for a week. I definitely didn't have any. I was a broke student studying my degree in Edinburgh. And I was like, how do I get this? And usually in film festivals, they have a very small core team of people working all year round. And then as the time comes that is closer to the festival, they need to recruit seasonal contracts, which is usually like 2-3 month contracts that are paid, but also volunteers, and they need tons and tons of them because there's just too much to do. There's people who take care of the guests that come to the festival. There's people like me who was just, taking care of the industry events and coordinating all the industry events that were happening at the festival. There's people who back in the day, I don't know if that's still there, but I'm assuming it does. They help the projectionist with the prints, making sure that all the prints are, in shape, making sure that they receive the films from the distributors, making sure that those, films are technically correct. So there's like a huge variety. There was a press department that deal with everybody, all the journalists that come to interview the people that come to the festival. So when they have a specific office run by 3 or 4 staff, and a lot of volunteers arranging the interviews, giving all the press releases about the film to the press, to the journalists that came from all over the world, from Variety to, I don't know, like all the film-specific magazines and all that stuff. So that is a very good way of doing it. And the good thing about it is that when you get to volunteer in a festival, if you can try to volunteer for a specific department, it will just give you an insight of, again, like who are the people who are coming and how the industries are structured as well. You also will probably to go and get to see your free films because they cannot pay you. They always make sure that you have, free tickets to go and see your screenings. And also, people say, oh, volunteer is working for free and things like, and I completely understand that. But film festivals are arts organizations, and it seems that the national sport in the UK right now is cutting funding for arts organizations. So they need people to support, these events that to me are just key to creatives like us. We need film festivals because they give us the exposure, to show our creative work. So yeah, and then the good thing about it is like film festivals are very short-lived. So some of them are like 4 days, some of them, I think the longest that we have in the UK is about 12 days. So if you have to ask for a little bit of time off, at work, is like, 10 days that you have to ask that. Yes, it comes from your holidays, but at the same time, you're investing in your career because it is a good move to just go and try this out and see if it's for you or not. Like I said here, with all my love to my lecturers at the University of Stirling, where I did my film and media degree years ago, I learned more from the UK film industry, volunteering for different festivals in Edinburgh, the UK and Europe, than I actually learned in my degree, because my degree was very theory and it was beautiful. And we watch a lot of films and we theorize about them like all over and back. But actually, when I came out of my degree, I already knew what the industry was, who I had to contact, who I wanted to work for, and how, to make, my move into where I am now, sort of thing. So yes, that was very good. So the another thing that is good for volunteering in festivals is like to start developing your network. So we've been talking about the Children Media Conference here and just like, going and talking to Netflix about an idea that I have in my head. And sometimes those things are very intimidating. And sometimes those things is like, okay, it might work if you have a talent development person from DreamWorks or from Netflix, looking for talent, by all means, just go and talk to them. But also like, when you're volunteering for a festival, you're working and volunteering with people that have the same passion as you are, and usually is making films. And most of the volunteer friends that I had, from working on and off in festivals for 5 years while I was doing my degree at the same time, we have all ended up working in different aspects of films, and those are beautiful things to witness. So some of them are taking care of actors in talent agencies. Some of them are producing their own films, like TV and animation. Some of them are script developers in places like the BBC or Channel 4. Some of them are running their own cinematheque in very, niche places on earth, and that's beautiful to see. Some of them have started their own film festivals, and some of them are still working in the film festival. So it's all very good. So the festival recommendations that I have is because it's the ones that I know, and they're ones that are very local to the UK. So the Edinburgh International Film Festival is very big, it's very huge. They offer a lot of possibilities for volunteering. And I also witnessed some very good stories in that festival, films that came with no distribution, ended up with distribution and winning Oscars years ago. And that was really beautiful to see. The Edinburgh TV Festival, I'm not familiar with them, but I know that they exist because they always came to some people got lost and they ended up in the International Film Festival, but it's massive. Like, I think, everybody in the UK who's a broadcaster, I think they go there quite a lot. The BFI London Film Festival is quite huge as well, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are London-based, so you may want to check that out. And Raindance Film Festival, I really like them because they're really for the up-and-coming talent, and they're very good offering short courses in specifics like screenwriting, directing, and so on during the year. And then Encounters Film Festival is one of the festivals, but they focus on short films and animation. And is quite competitive because if you win an award in Encounters, then immediately you are shortlisted for the Oscars as well. So there are many festivals everywhere. Like, I could just name a million, but I then put them on my non-drawing slide presentation. Apologies for that. But yeah, I will encourage everybody to go into Google or the internet and just see which local festivals are in your area, and don't be shy about hey, this is me, I'm interested, because I feel at the moment, like back then, film, series, television, everything was very separate. But now with the big Netflixes and the Amazon and the Hulus and all that stuff, everything gets really mixed. So you may know someone from a film festival in Netflix that then, they can help you out in your career in television, with someone else. So yeah. But yeah, I just, I hope this information was useful. It definitely changed my life. And and if you can go, when things go back to normal and support your local festival, that would be grand.
That's just brilliant, Paola. Gosh, I just can't wait to get back out there at a film festival. And Kathy, our director at CMC, was just echoing that, how valuable volunteering is. And, when CMC is real life, we recruit over 100 volunteers.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, it's a great way to meet people in the industry. So, Paola, thank you so much for your insight. I really, really appreciate it. We all do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to whip back to Lindsay. Lindsay, you're going to be telling us now about what to look out for that first job in the industry.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep it really fast because I think most of these points have been touched on anyway, but I just want to give proper insight. So again, most of what you're going to see here is mostly screen examples just because that's my background, but the principles apply to all of the sectors. So I'm going to let you guys read the top tips when you come back. They're really, really basic and you would think everyone does it, but trust me, I hire dozens and dozens and dozens of people a year and a lot of people don't do that. So I'm going to give you these slides later. We can go on to the next slide. Throughout the UK and Ireland in particular, there are a handful of schemes that are specifically designed for newcomers and with no previous experience. And hopefully the majority of them are paid because I do believe in paying people for their experience. So we'll click through to the BBC, are still one of the biggest employers in media in the UK. And they do have a variety of different courses that you can get onto. They open at different times of the year. So if you've missed any of these, what I would say is look at when they opened, put it in your calendar for a reminder for next year. And then when it comes up again, you'll be ready for when it opens and you can start putting your applications through. The next slide is the Secret Story Draw. This is new for this year, and I just think it sounds amazing. It's closed for this year, and some of our attendees are from here, so shout out hello if you're here. Again, have a look at when it opened earlier on this year, put a reminder in your diary and have a look for it for next year, which is great. The apprenticeships. The UK has a number of creative roles that apply for apprenticeships. This is a new one that's going to start in the new year for animation in particular. Now, I don't super know how you find out which companies are taking part in apprenticeships, but if you go to this website, there's really specific words in here that you can put into a Google alert for your emails. And when it does come up, hopefully you'll be able to find them. But I just wanted you to be aware that these apprenticeships do happen and companies do take them on board. So just doing a bit of research and you'll be able to find them. And there's a million versions of these traineeships, so just have a look through them. This is a great one, which is for Ireland. You can apply if you're in the UK as well, but you have to be willing to move to Ireland for it if you get it. And this is a paid graduate scheme that takes place once or twice a year in Ireland. We're actually doing it at Daily Madness at the moment. I have 3 graduates on my payroll and they're doing amazing and fantastic things. So the current one's closed. The next one might be opening pretty soon. So have a little look for that one. I've also been made aware this is a brand new apprenticeship that's going to open very late in 2021. Again, it's Ireland based. It's brand new, so I don't know enough details about it, but it's specifically for the CG technical artist. So again, go to this website, you'll get the slides, check it out. The next one, Passport to Production. Unfortunately, it closed on Monday, just gone, so I'm gutted. But this was for live action people to get paid traineeships on sets in Ireland. Again, it's Ireland. I'm sorry, I'm from Dublin. Like it's going to be a lot of Irish stuff. Check it out. So hopefully they'll bring it back next year because I think this is like the killer. This is the queen of all of the internships if you can get onto it. And this is just a general, just to be aware that in the UK, screenskills.com have something called Trainee Finder. And it's just a really good resource for showing you like mentorships and other programs. They don't track all of the apprenticeships, unfortunately. Otherwise, that would be a really easy resource to get to. But it does have an awful lot of places that you can go and learn and meet people. So obviously those are an example of the schemes that I'm aware of, and I'm sure that there's more of them out there, but those are the ones I have. In terms of finding key players in the industry, because most companies do need interns and trainees and juniors, you just need to find out who they are. So if we move on to the next slide, CMC, this is where I would say to go to. It's just the most obvious one. So obviously the CMC is an online event this year, and it gives you a real oversight of what's happening in kids media now. So by doing their keynote talks, their panel discussions, their networking opportunities, and kind of going through all of the stuff that Paul has just covered, it gives you a really good overview of what's happening. But I would also spend a little bit of time just studying the website, and 2 pages in particular, the sponsors list, which is huge, by the way. When you scroll down, there's gazillions of them. And the delegate list, which shows you everyone who's actively working in the industry right now. If we were coming to CMC, it's because we have a show in production, a show we want to get made, something that we're going to sell. And so these are the people who are actively working in animation now. Takes a little bit research, a little bit hustle to go find their websites, but find the companies that are doing the stuff that you like. They might have suitable jobs out. Brilliant. If they do, apply. And if they don't, send them a speculative email and then start following them on social media, because social media is a free place to advertise jobs and they will put their jobs up there. And then it just means that you're aware when it starts to come through. And this is going to be the exact same for radio and publishing and games. Everyone has a conference where they put their name and they put their company up there. So just go and do a little bit of research and do a little bit hustle. And that would be my very fast introduction to just getting to grips with it. Thank you so much.
There's like smoke coming up behind you. That was fantastic. I hope you guys were taking very rapid notes. Right then, now networking is always key, and we now have some insights from a freelancer on the kids industry. So it's over to you, Christina.
Hi everyone. Thanks so much for the introduction, fam. So, I'm Christina, a screenwriter and creator, and I'm here to talk to you all about making the most of CMC and the enigmatic art of networking. My first CMC was in 2017, and I was so green. I was an unrepped screenwriter at that stage, which just means I didn't have an agent yet, as well as an animator. I'd worked on a handful of shows, but was pretty unknown by industry standards, and I was looking to take the next steps in my career. CMC was my first industry event that wasn't just a festival. And besides attending the talks, I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to be doing other than vaguely finding a job. But I still had a great time, and here's what I would go back and tell myself or remind myself as a first-time attendee. Firstly, relax. Just try to enjoy it. There's no wrong way to do CMC, and there's no wrong way to meet people and make connections. Secondly, watch everything and absorb as much as you can. There's so much to learn. I still feel like I learn something new every year. I'd also recommend going to panels and talks that you don't necessarily think apply to you. Sometimes those are the most interesting ones to go to. CMC has a lot to offer, so if you can, do some of the workshops. I did the pitching workshop a couple of years ago, and I found it really, really useful. So where am I today? Just a couple of years on, really. I have an agent. I've written for a lot of the big networks, including Disney, Nickelodeon, and CBeebies, and I'm creating and pitching my own shows too. And I feel absolutely embedded in and supported by the creative company I keep. Even though I'm still a freelancer, I feel that I have a community, and I get to create things with colleagues who are also friends. I love coming to events like these because I've long since realized that this is the place to really nerd out about all of your passions. So, let's talk about networking. I'm sure lots of people have told you that networking is super important in your career, but it gets a bad rap. A lot of people dread it. A lot of people think they're not good at it. There's a notion that it's quite a cynical activity, and there's just the exasperation of it as well. Like, you've already worked so hard to become good at this one thing, and now you have to become good at this other thing. So I'd say, throw all of those notions out the door. This is how I think about networking these days. So most of us are looking to create something, or be a part of the creation of something. You can't make anything on your own, really, unless you're Bo Burnham, maybe. You need lots of people to make a show. Even if your goal is something like writing a book, you have to know how to get your brilliant manuscript to someone who will publish it. So the people that you meet at events like these are your professional peers and your community, so you should get to know them. Everything you make will be a team effort, and the people you meet may, at some point, become part of your team. But I hear you saying, how do I do it? How do I approach people? And how do I know who to talk to? So firstly, I would say there is inevitably some awkwardness when you just introduce yourself to a stranger, but go for it anyway. Most people feel exactly the same way you do about meeting strangers, so just know that you're not alone. Secondly, I would say talk to everyone. When you're starting out, you never know who you may wind up clicking with. Now, I've written down what I think are the 3 Ps of networking. I've just made these up, so other people might have different advice, but here are 3 things, just a little short, snappy thing to help you remember and maybe kind of focus your efforts. So the first is personal enthusiasm. And by this, I mean 2 things. First of all, talk about what you love. Talk about what shows you love and what you love about what you do. And the second is, don't be afraid to be enthusiastic about yourself. What you think you can bring to a project or a team. Even if you're totally inexperienced, your passion can be a selling point. So don't let modesty equate to selling yourself short. The second P, professional empathy. Remember that the person you're talking to is a human being and not just a job fairy. This is true for everyone, from the highest flying executive to the greenest freelancer. So approach your interactions with kindness and a real interest, not just because you're looking to get hired. And the third P is for patience. Don't expect things to happen all at once. And don't worry if you don't get a job after one conference. Your career is a long game, and it's always worthwhile to be part of your creative community. Now, of course, we have to acknowledge that all of this is a little bit different when everything is being held online. So what I'd say about that is, don't be afraid to reach out to people. Take advantage of the online networking events. I swear they're not as awkward as you'd think they'd be. And most people just want to meet new people the same way you do and are interested to do that even if it is just over a Zoom call. And of course, sooner rather than later, we probably will be back at these events in person. And yeah, don't be afraid to go up and just say hi to someone. And for my very last point, I just want to say that if you're ever feeling lost or overwhelmed trying to navigate this, or, feeling a bit lonely at a conference, just remember why you're doing this. It's a privilege to be making things for a kid audience, and we really are in a position to be and make the change that we want to see in the world through the stories that we tell. That's all from me. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Christina. Fantastic. I love a bit of networking, and you nailed it. And yeah, absolutely spot on. Oh, and she got the memo about the car key. Looking good, girl. Okay, then we are getting towards the end. I can't believe this. And we have got a brilliant summary coming up for you right now. So, Sarah, it's so great to have you here. Please summarize.
Well, I was going to summarize. I think the one thing I'm going to say is we're so lucky. I know as a community, whether that's people already in the industry or those, we've got well over 100 people still on the call, and they're people that are wanting to engage and come into the industry. And that richness is why I'm still here. It's why we're all still lucky. And I think the main things that have come out is that we are part of a community. And we just heard Christina talking about networking. And one of the things is not getting down when it doesn't happen the first time. Keep on going. And there are so many opportunities. One of the things that I want to say is that, at the moment, everything's been thrown up in the air with everything that's happened. There are so many more opportunities and our industry is thriving. So why CMC, and why do we feel we are a jewel in the crown? And it is because we are a really tight community. It's like being a family, and we welcome everybody in. So new people can come, we're excited, and it's like having a new friend when you meet them. Part of the frustration for the last couple of years has been that we can't meet in person. And it's that bit where I can see Fayon at the moment, I can't see the others. And I'm sort of looking at the numbers thinking, who are the faces behind the names? And I'd love to meet them. We are going to have networking. So I think one of the key things that's come out is not only all the information about how you can get on, do rewatch this when it comes back out, do watch the videos on the CMC portal when they come out. There will be live events within that, not only networking, but live masterclasses and things like that happening. Get yourself in there and post a question, speak to people, get yourself known. And I think that's one of the key things that everybody's been saying. I'd written down in my words before the session, you need to be bold, you need to be confident, you need to be curious. And I think you need to be brave, which sort of echoes what Kez was saying. We are, and don't go there now, but we will be going and doing our first ever networking on the new platform, which, as you said earlier, we don't want to go on there now because it'll mess up cameras and what you're doing. But I think the key thing is to get out there, whether you're a quiet person and it's a real struggle, you still have a voice. There are many parts of the industry that really have people who are quite quiet. You need to step up and get yourself known. So I've written lots of notes. I think everybody was super clear, and I want to keep this really short. I will be in Wonder Me after this is finished and not before. Do sign up for CMC. And whether you've got an access code through an organisation that you're coming through, or you can join as a freelancer, or get in touch with Lauren if you're wondering how you should go about that. But I can say it's a brilliant starting point, and the starting point for so many people, whatever age you are, because I know there've been some questions about what stage you're at. Everybody can make their way within the industry. So I think that covers me and those things that I'm supposed to cover off.
Brilliant, Sarah. Thank you so much, and a wonderful way to just end this incredible event. Get in and get on. It's been brilliant. So thank you very much for your time. Time to wrap up. So you can watch the whole session all over again in just a few hours' time, along with over 70 other videos from CMC events on the CMC YouTube channel. Tell your mates, tell your friends, go on and have a look. Lauren is posting the information in the chat right now, so you can crack on to that whenever you're ready. And as Sarah was saying, do register for CMC. It's from the 5th to the 9th of July. Register now. Don't leave it too late. And a last reminder, of course, it's just going to be packed with live sessions, social event, amazing online library of content. So just make sure you are there. And of course, Sarah just mentioned again, Wonder, have your Chrome enabled, have your camera ready. We're going to be doing that when we have finished here. So this is your chance to warm up those networking skills. Come for half an hour, come for 10 minutes, come for the whole thing if you can. But it is your time to have a chat and meet people. So cameras at the ready, smile. Lauren, again, thank you so much. She will pop that information in the chat so you can get involved and get on to Wonder. Remember, in the Google Chrome browser. A huge thank you to all of our speakers today. There are too many to mention, but we really, really appreciate all the effort and the ideas. And of course, to our sponsors, especially Gutsy Animations, who sponsored this webinar today. I want to thank Darren and Lauren and the CMC team, and to our fantastic producer for the whole event, Lindsay Adams, who worked so brilliantly. Thank you so much. And Lindsay, of course, is from Daily Madness Productions. I want to thank myself because I love doing this and I just totally enjoyed it. And we will see you at CMC. But remember, get over to Wonder right now. Take care, everyone.